the slope is positive and the y-intercept is positive, it's gonna go up from left to right and cross the y-axis above the x-axis. So which quadrants are we in? You remember which quadrant is which?
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3. Quadrant. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Always forget those, so it's probably bad for math, sure. It's weird. Okay, so if your slope is positive but your y-intercept is negative, where's your graph gonna be? Below the x-axis, but still going up from left to right. So which quadrants are we in this time?
1, 4.
1, 3, and 4. Okay, go ahead and do those next 3. So if your slope is negative and your y-intercept is positive, it should go down from left to right above the x-axis, which means it's going to be in quadrants 1, 2, and 4. If both slope and y-intercept are negative, it's going to go down from left to right, crossing below the x-axis, which puts it in quadrants what? 2, 3, and 4. And what if your slope is 0? What does your line look like? It's a horizontal line. And if your y-intercept is less than 0, it's a horizontal line below the x-axis. There it goes. Which means it's only going to be in 2 quadrants, 3 and 4. Okay. Now, number 1 in geometry, you studied linear functions whose equations were often written in a myriad of forms utilizing both variables x and y. The table below are linear equations in forms you've seen before. So they want you to rewrite all of them into slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So we're going to solve for y on each of these. In the first one, I'm going to subtract 2x and add 6 to both sides. And divide every term by negative 3. So you get 2/3 x minus 2. We're going to replace that y with f of x. then I'll let you go ahead and do those next two. Okay, check yours with mine, make sure we match. Okay, so at the top of the rest of the pages, it says equation for f of x, equation for g of x, and equation of h of x. So go ahead and write those equations in from right here. So if you'll notice, there's a box at the top of each one. Go ahead and write them in, that way you already have them later when we go to work these. Okay, so we have the equation for f of x, which we just found was 2/3 x minus 2. Based on the values of a and b, so based on your slope and your y-intercept, through which quadrant will the graph not pass? So I have a positive value of a the negative value of B. So based on that stuff we got on the front page, which quadrant will we not pass through? What? I have a positive slope and a negative y-intercept. Probably gonna go up from here to here. So it's not gonna go through quadrant 2. All right, so this first time, we're gonna go through all of the algebra to get our line. And then after that, I promise I won't make you do too much craziness that you already know how to do, okay? So it says, using the equation for f of x, complete the table of values below, then use the ordered pairs to graph the linear function on the grid to the right. Okay, so they're giving us x values, and they're asking us to plug them into our equation, solve for y, and get an ordered pair. So we have 2/3 times -6 minus 2. So we have 2/3 times -6. 2 times -6 is -12. -12 divided by 3 is -4.
-6.
And -4 minus 2 is -6. So that's gonna give us the point, -6, -6. Okay, you're gonna do that same thing for all of these x values. Okay, so I'm gonna check yours with mine. Okay, now you're gonna plot all of those ordered pairs on your graph and connect them. Struggling today. Okay, but did we really have to do all of that work to graph this line? No, because what could you have done to graph this line? Without making all the points? What would you have done for Miss Lashley? Use the slope and the y-intercept, right? You would start down here at -2, and then use your slope, which is rise over run, to get some more points. And you would have ended up on all those same points, right? Okay, making sure you remember how to do all that. So on the other two that we're gonna do this with, you don't have to do all of that math right there. Okay, so now it says investigate the graph of f of x and identify the indicated values of x for the function. So identify the value on the x-axis for which your function equals 0. So at what value does y equal 0? Yep, when x equals 3, y is 0. And we need the interval along the x-axis for which f of x is less than 0. What does f of x less than 0 look like on the graph? Below the x-axis, and it's always going to be below the x-axis from -infinity up to 3. Are we going to include 3? No. So -infinity up to 3. And the interval along the x-axis for which f of x is greater than 0, what does that look like on my graph? Above the x-axis. So what's my interval?
3.
3 to infinity. Okay, now we're gonna do that same thing, but we're gonna do it with the equation. We're gonna pretend we don't know what the graph looks like. Okay, so identify the values on the x-axis for which f of x equals 0. So I'm gonna set my equation, f of x equals 2/3 x minus 2 equal to 0. And then I'm gonna solve for x. And what should we get?
3.
You should, because that's what we got when we did it with the graph, right? Okay, so you should get x equals 3 when you solve it, because that's the same thing we had on the other one, right? Part B, identify the intervals along the x-axis for which f of x is less than 0. So we're gonna do the same thing, take f of x and plug it in right here. 2/3 x minus 2 less than 0. And then solve. And the same thing for greater than 0, above the x-axis. 2/3 x greater than 2 greater than 6, greater than 3, which we write as 3 to infinity. Okay, so I'm gonna give you like 10 minutes to work through that next one for g of x. You can work with your neighbor if you want. Okay, so which quadrant does it not pass through? G of x does not pass through what?
3.
3. Okay, here are your ordered pairs. And that is what your line should look like. Okay, feeling pretty good so far? Good. Okay, what x value does g of x equal 0?
1.5.
1.5, and it's less than 0.
1.5 infinity.
1.5 to infinity, and it's greater than 0. Negative infinity up to 1.5. Did you get the same thing when you worked it out this way? Yes? Okay. If you haven't already, go ahead and do the same thing for h of x. Give me about 5 more minutes. Okay. So which quadrant do we not go through? Correct. Okay, here are the points, your ordered pairs, -6, 1, -3, -1/2, 0, -2, 3, -3/2, and 6, -5. That's what your line should look like. Okay, which x values, or at which x value is h of x equal to 0? -4. It's less than 0, where?
-4 to infinity.
Which means it's greater than 0 from negative infinity to -4. And then you should get those exact same things. And you show all the work algebraically. Okay. So that's all the notes we have for today. Originally, we were going to start day 18 and do that too, but really, I think that's just one we need to do start to finish. And it was really long. So, you guys kind of get a little bit of a break today. We're going to go over the tests here in a second. And then you'll work on day 17 homework. You can turn it in if you get it finished, which you should because it's not very long. And then you'll have no homework.